a winning roster.
Yeah, we're up. So
I tell you what, Brett, it's a lot of fun to talk about right now, though, because the beauty of and how long are we? A couple of minutes from going live.
We got less than a minute.
But Brett and I were talking before we came on air just about this public and private split, and the reason that it's so fun to talk about is there's not a perfect world. There's not a perfect answer on any of it.
No,
not whatsoever. Is there a perfect answer?
Yeah,
So it makes everyone have an opinion, and most of the time they feel their opinion's the only one that is good. And the moment that you allow a politician that has the idea that he definitely has all of the answers, which, by the way, is the worst kind of politician, one that thinks he's got all the damn answers, is a problem. Okay, but we ain't got to go into that and talk. Let's talk Auburn basketball.
That's what we're about to get. 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm the clamoring on that other ain't going. They just got to make a decision. Period.
Oh, they need split. I'm talking about not split. They need separate organizations and oversights because they're not going to work under the same set of rules.
No, but they got to get that other one straight.
Nor should they. They should.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Auburn Blitz here on this Monday. We are so glad that you've joined us out there. Our program brought to you by Sensagreen for air that is warm and clean today. It is freezing outside. So Sensagreen for air that's warm and clean and cool and clean in the spring and the summer. Call them Sensagreen. They are the carrier dealers here in the state of Alabama and proud supporters of the Auburn Blitz podcast here and show. Also, we want to thank J.A. Smith Construction and Excavation. J.A. Smith Construction, no job is too big or too small. They handle all the pre-site work for you in your construction project. They'll help you out, residential, commercial. No job too big or too small. Call them J.A. Smith Construction. Brett and Randy here with you for your lunch hour. Good to see you, Randy. A lot to dive into here on the show today. And we'll start with Auburn basketball, obviously, with one of the largest wins we've had in a while. And no doubt it's the biggest win for Stephen Pearl in his infant career as a head basketball coach. Go on the road, beat your best friend in his place. So I know that Todd Golden wasn't very happy after the game, but I'm sure they talked and it's just that competitive spirit right there in the moment. But those two guys go at each other, but they're very, very close. They are very, very good friends, and they do support each other in each other's programs. But the storyline was how Auburn played and defensively went down to Gainesville and really put the clamps on a very good Florida basketball team. And that is where Auburn basketball makes its money, man. That's playing good, solid, intense defense. They didn't get this effort really at the beginning of the season into the first part of the SEC schedule, but the last three games, this has shown up, and I hope it stays around.
Well, and for whatever reason it didn't show up, I'm sitting on the side to say the reason it didn't show up to begin with is it's a completely new roster learning to play together, and communication's not going to be as good as it's going to be later in the season as you get moving on. And look, Brett, the two games last week, Auburn gave up 66 points on the road earlier in the week, and great outing going into that ball game. Andy and I talked about it. May have been me and Jim talking about it, but Auburn was giving up right at 79 points per game before that one, and then you get what you got on Saturday. So that's two back-to-back, both of them on the road, both of them wins. And differing ways that they got it done, Brett. I thought that, living and playing with the game plan that is put in front of you is important in basketball. And over the years, Bruce Pearl and this staff, all of this staff, including Stephen, have been able to put game plans together that expose the weakness of the teams that we're playing. And buddy, it was a thing of beauty on Saturday.
It definitely was. We'll dive into the box score here. First things first, I did a post-game show after the game, and things that stood out to me, I kind of went through those. First off, you get off to a really, really good start on the road. That always helps. When you can get out to a good start, you ran away from Florida a little bit. You knew they were going to come back. You knew they were going to make a run. They did. They tied the game up, thought they had the lead on a goal-10. It got reversed. It was a clean block. I thought that was the turning point. With 7 minutes to go in the game, Florida had fought back, looked like they had taken a 58-56 lead, and they didn't. So Auburn goes back down, scores, and goes back up 2. And the only lead Florida had in that game was 3-2 early in the game. And so the silver lining in this, obviously the going on the road winning against Florida is the most important thing. But the silver lining is you took 2 or 3 punches to the jaw and you withstood them in a hostile environment in a place you ain't won in 30 years, and you figured out a way to hold on and win the game. And that's important, and I think that should be said, that you get off to a big lead, that teams are going to come back. How do you respond? And this Auburn team responded well.
Well, it didn't let it come back also to where at the end of the ball game you had to hit a shot to win it, or you had to get the game into overtime like we did against Georgia to win it. Ran it back up. Once you let them back in it, you run it right back up. And, what does that say about Auburn basketball to you, that we're able to, both of these games this week, run out to massive leads, that we're able to run out to a massive lead at home against Texas A&M? Did we sustain it? No, but I mean, it takes talent. It takes, at times, offensive explosion to run up those scores like we have. But we've been able to do that, Brett. It's not just hang in there, just see if we can get it to the end of the game, and then see if we can find a way for Keyshawn Murphy to make a shot. Anybody that goes back and watches that A&M game can tell that we had that thing under control until we got winded. And A&M and Bucky McMillan does what he does. He just wears you down mentally and physically until they hit you on a little 1.5, 2 minute spurt where 11 points is thrown on the board. And you're like, what just happened to my 16-point lead? It's gone. But we're not the only one he's done that to, is my point. If it was just us, he's doing it just about everybody.
He's an overtime loss away at Tennessee from being undefeated right now. I mean,
yes.
And they kind of let that one get away from them. Yeah. They had a lead, and Tennessee was able to get that thing to overtime and beat them. But yeah, he's spectacular right now. I don't care what anybody says. He is setting the woods on fire. And but you're right. It says a lot about Auburn. I think it says a lot that you're doing this and you're really not shooting threes well.
No, it's not shooting well at all.
Yeah. This was the better of the games we've shot threes. Only made 5, but only shot 15. And I think maybe that's the deal. Maybe more designed plays for threes rather than coming down, jacking up a bunch of threes like we've been known to do. You look at Florida. They made 7, but they shot 27, and they shot poorly from the free throw line, which was another key element in this game. And you look at it, when Florida shoots 59% from the free throw line, Auburn shoots 90%. 19 to 21, they shot free throws against Ole Miss very well. We talked about this the other day, points in the paint. Well, free throws count as points in the paint because you're driving the basket, getting fouled, or you're getting rebounds, getting second chance points. And, one of the things that we've struggled with around here for a while is free throw shooting, but that's improved. The defense has improved, and you're seeing the results from both.
Well, and you get, it may not be every game, but about every other game, Keyshawn Hall, by far the best player on the court.
There's no question about it, man.
He goes for 22 points in the first half. He didn't have to do much in the second.
He only had 2 in the second, but
Auburn found ways to score buckets without him. Keyshawn Murphy playing at a higher level than I ever expected him to, Brett. I mean, he's a double-double machine right now, and it's not 12 and 11. I mean, it's more of the 16 to 18 to 10 to 11. I mean, he's getting well into double digits, and that's helped. And Tahad seems to be finding his way. He's not Braden Smith. He's not a distributor. No. If anything, I think Tahad's in a situation where he's having to play the point when I'm not sure that his overall skill set's set for the point guard. But he's doing a great job. He can handle the ball. He doesn't distribute the ball quite as well as a great point guard would, but he can go get a shot anytime down the court. And his athleticism's through the roof. So defensively, though, I think is where you started this show, Brett, and that's where we can kind of end this segment is if Auburn plays defense like they did during a 10-year stretch with Bruce Pearl, Stephen Pearl, Ira Bowman, this entire staff, to where we consistently hold SEC opponents to mid-60s in scoring breadth, we're going to win an awful lot of basketball games, because I don't think we're anywhere near to our ceiling this year offensively, but we're moving there. We're doing it different than we've done it in the past, but you can see the development, can't you? And a number of players playing way better than we saw them play earlier in the year.
Yeah, no doubt. I think some comments over here. I'll get to Jake's and JJ's comments here in just a minute. But Patrick said should have beaten Houston, Georgia, and A&M right there. One possession, had a shot to beat Houston, lost in overtime to Georgia, lost in overtime or lost at the end of the game to A&M on a buzzer beater that we made it. Whatever, it's late. Shouldn't have come down to that. I've been through that a million times, but there's also games that we've won. People go, well, you shouldn't have won. I know they kind of even out, Patrick, but I'm with you. I mean, that's 3 more wins there if you just handle your business, really. You had those teams where you wanted them and you didn't finish, and that's part of it. Hopefully that's a learning thing. And then also put on a defensive clinic against Florida. Maybe this is that game that you look at here. We got a couple minutes left in this first segment. This is that game you look back and go, that's when Auburn clicked. That's when they figured out what they can do and how they can go out. I thought it was the Arkansas game, and then, of course, they come back and the next week, and I was like, well, never mind. But, Auburn has shown that they can score 93 and they can score a bunch of points when they need to. But they can also put the clamps on and get in that rock fight type game and win a 70-something to 60-something game. You got to be able to be versatile, man, depending on who your opponent is.
Well, I tell you what, we're doing way better than I expected rebounding the basketball. We're not anywhere near the size we've been in the past, but the guys play physical in the post. And it's not only the bigs that we have, it's the guards. Getting in there, getting key rebounds. I like the dynamic of this team. I wish we had a couple of more pieces. It's easy to sit here right now and say, I wish we had a couple more pieces, but I do think that we're a couple of pieces from being a Sweet 16 team. We may sneak our way into being a Sweet 16 team, even with this squad. But, man, if you had one more big and Yoxel or somebody like that, which is
Did you hear Jason this morning? Did you hear Jason this morning on our show?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
That's a good segue into what I want to talk about. You led into that perfectly. We got to get to our first break here on the show for TV. We'll stay up, obviously, on social media and YouTube. But, again, we're here each and every day at noon. Stay tuned. More of the Auburn Blitz coming up right after this. I'll say it for here, and then I'll go back through it for TV. Jason brought up a great point I don't think any of us have thought about. Michigan added 4 players to their roster this year. We added 11. And we had to go re-sign Tahad at a big deal. He said, Auburn's got money. He said, when you got to put 11 or 12 out there, he says, different than 4. He said, so the hopes are moving in. He said, you never know, and you don't. What it's going to look like year to year. You may lose them all again this year. But if you keep some key pieces and you only lose 4 or 5, and then now you got more money over here to go get somebody that you couldn't have gotten the year before. I thought it was an outstanding point. It's one that I hadn't thought about, and it makes perfect sense because we brought up Yoxel and talked about that. He's like, yeah, we wanted Yoxel. Yes, this is what we could offer. He said, but what did you want to sacrifice? What did you want to give up? You want to go get Yoxel and go get one more guy, and then, this is already a thin team. It's kind of crazy to look at. Auburn only played 7 guys in that game against – you played Blake, but he played 2 minutes. I don't count. His stat line was 0. You really played 7 guys. That is not much, man, in a game against a team like Florida, and you were able to go down there and win, which makes it even more impressive to me. But the money thing is that was a good point. Michigan adding 4, Auburn adding 11.
I'll push back a little bit from my end, though, and that's that you knew that going in. I mean, that was such a big senior group that had been with us for a while. And if you go and you get a little bit younger and you keep them around, then maybe you do only have 4 or 5. But I don't care if it's Bruce Pearl or who it is, you're going to have to put a big number out there. And my point, though, Brett, is you can spend as much as you want. So if you do only go and get what we got, and you end up in these games, which we do have one injury that I think is costing us a little bit down in the post, but you do end up in this situation. If I were to ask maybe the Auburn administration, coaching staff, and you and Jason right now, if you would have liked to spend another $4 or $5 million to add 2 pieces, what kind of team do you think we'd have? What would you say, Brett?
If you had it, you could spend it. If you have the money, spend it.
Well, I mean, we're somehow finding plenty of it to spend and it not work out all that well for us in football. In a sport where we have been getting our money's worth, which is basketball.
Right. I'm just saying how I can't speak for the administration, how they want to allocate funds to each other's sport. I think that was a point that was brought up by some people watching this morning. That, again, it's not necessarily maybe the coaches, it's the pieces that are relinquishing the funds and how much they want to dedicate to that. And they may say, look, we're going to spend X number regardless of how many players you got to go get every year. If it's only 4 this year, now you got all this money to go get some maybe really top tier guys. If it's 11, you still got to work within them parameters. I don't know. That's just a scenario.
And I mean, I think the coaching staff, of course, they would have loved to have had the extra 4 or 5. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not questioning them. I'm questioning.
It's the GMs making the call and it's who's saying this is how much money you got to spend, period. Doesn't matter if you got 11 guys you got to go get or if you got 3. You know, that's crazy. I mean, I know. And then some guys returning, like with Todd, his deal went up. You know, he didn't get the same deal he had the year before. So all that plays into it. There's never been a more important position in college athletics than these GM positions right now in all the sports.
Bashir's back practicing, Brett. Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, when's he going to play?
I thought we may have seen him by now. But we're going to go. We got some viewing time tomorrow at practice. And so we're going to be able to give you a little bit of update tomorrow. And then the game obviously on Wednesday. So we'll be able to give you some reports. We might do a quick deal after we walk out of practice, kind of give everybody an update what we've seen tomorrow. We got about 20 seconds. But you turn the page and you go into Texas. I mean, Texas is a pretty good team, man. You can't go in there and poot around with them. So
no, they played good Saturday.
Yep. They did play good Saturday. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Auburn Blitz. 45 minutes left on our show today, and we appreciate all of you out there. Again, always doing our disclaimer. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go do that. Hit the like button. It helps us out tremendously. And all of our podcasts that are out, you can get them out in podcast world now, whether it be Apple. I had somebody this weekend tell me, man, thank God y'all are finally on the podcast. They're like, I listen to y'all now going up the road. And so, yeah, we're glad to be on those now. So if you get it by Amazon or Apple or iHeart or wherever it is that you get it, Pandora, Spotify, we're out there for you to pick that up. And I'll make sure that's loaded every single morning. So go check that out. So we appreciate all our partners, Sensa Green and J. Smith Construction here on this show. Very, very much appreciative of all the people that support us out here. All right. So going back, talking, we got a lot that we want to dive into here. But you were bringing up the point about the budget for the team. And Jason, I thought on the podcast this morning, which you can go back and listen to, guys, like we just said, or watch on our YouTube channel. I thought he had a good point. Auburn had to fill almost a full roster. He had everybody leave. They had one guy return, Todd Pettiford, and his deal went up because you went out and re-signed. You know, at the time, everybody still feels like one of the top guards in the country, and to get him to not go to the NBA. And he had a good combine, and it was iffy if he was going to come back or not. But Auburn coerces him to come back. I think it comes down, Randy, from basically what Jason's saying is here's what each college sets as a budget every year. Now, whether that goes up or down, whatever, that has to be negotiated. But I kind of take it as the budget I was given when I was a CAC. We all had to go fight for our budget, each department. And, of course, we all want as much as we can get. And the business office gave us X number of dollars, and I had to make it work, man. I could go in there and cry a little bit and try to get some more to spend, but sometimes they'd give me a little bit, but most times they wouldn't. I think it comes down to, and I don't know what that number is, Auburn's basketball program has this much money every year. And whether you got 11 players to go get or 3 or 4, here's what you got. So you got to make it work. That's why you and I were talking about the GM position, how important it is to be able to go out and figure out how to do all that.
Well, I would love to see where we stack up with what everyone else in the SEC spending. My guess is we're getting way more with less than some of the other programs in the SEC. Now, does it mean that we can at some point in time spend like money to them? Maybe.
What did Kentucky spend on their roster? $20 million?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think we spent on this one? Less than 10?
I was going to say probably 10 to 11 because of Tahad.
Yeah, and that would mean him getting 2.
Because I think Keyshawn garnered. I mean, Keyshawn was probably one of the top guys in the portal for a lot of people, and
I think he's probably a 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just guessing. But I would guess that the top 3 or 4 teams in the SEC, we may be half of what they spent, and it may not even be 3 or 4. It may only be. But you think we come in about middle of the pack with what we spent?
I would say about 8, somewhere around in there.
Well, buddy, we get a lot more out of that 8 than a lot of the teams that are sitting there in the middle of the pack with us. So I can't say enough good things about this staff. And I keep saying this staff because it's Bruce Pearl's staff. I mean, Stephen's Bruce Pearl's staff. And he's a head man now, but the rest of them are still there, Brett. And a lot of the credit's always been given to Ira and some others on development of players. And where we have complained over and over again about the lack of development for football players at Auburn, we can't say that for basketball. You can watch us year in and year out, man. Start of the season, whatever you feel like our weaknesses are by the end of the season, they're not. And that says a lot about the coaching that we're getting.
Oh, there's no question about it. I think that was probably the biggest part of hiring Stephen was retaining the staff, and it was made mention by John Cohen that we wanted to keep the upheaval to a dead minimum if possible in this coaching change because of the timing, because I think he made that comment verbatim and said that was the key is that you keep all these coaches and you're changing the head guy, but from a continuity standpoint from the players and all, Faith asked Elijah Freeman straight up in her interview last week about that. She said, how was your reaction when you found out, Bruce was leaving and Stephen was becoming, the head coach? And he said, well, it took a little bit of, because those guys wanted to play. It's kind of like guys that went to Alabama that want to play for Nick Saban. Nick Saban says, hey, guys, I'm leaving. And you go, whoa, that's a letdown. Definitely it's not a cut on Stephen, but it was a letdown, for some of those guys that were expecting to come in and play under him, who's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. And then you don't get this opportunity. You have to take a little bit of time to kind of let that soak in. But he was like, hey, I love Stephen. I love the coaching staff. And, I think once the initial shock wore off, that's why all of them stayed. They had an opportunity to go get in the portal, although it was a very short amount of time. And a lot of teams already had their rosters, and it was kind of a late deal. But they still did have the opportunity to leave if they wanted to, and none of them did.
Says a lot. And, we're midway through this SEC schedule, and all signs point to Auburn going to be in the mix at the end. I mean, if we play as well, again, 2 games on the road.
I don't think this team's going to collapse for sure.
I don't either. I think they're getting better. And I think if they start hitting shots, because it's not like this team doesn't have good outside shooters. I think Keyshawn Hall's not shooting it as well as we saw him shoot it from the perimeter earlier in the year.
Right.
Tahad, I don't know the reason there. Maybe it's just everything, just so much responsibility weighing on him with the ball handling and and all that goes with that. But I watched this team, and I had a question a little bit earlier about Simon Walker and his inability to get out there on the court. Maybe it's just a little early for him to find his way, but he's a big time high school shooter. Huntsville High, Tennessee had an offer for him. I think he was committed to Tennessee, if memory serves me right, for quite a while.
He was.
It wasn't like Auburn just came in late due to how good of a player he was on the AAU circuit and offered to him, but he really just hasn't found his way into the lineup. And being the shooter that he is, maybe by the end of the year he will give you 7 or 8 minutes and knock down some of these shots. Because, Brett, that is the only thing that I look at and say would keep us from getting to an SEC championship caliber team is our inability to knock down 12 to 14 3-pointers when needed. Doesn't mean we're going to need them every night, but there is going to be some of these games where
you can't just
the team you're going to be playing is going to be shooting it well, and you got to stay with them.
Yeah, you just can't hit 2. You know, you got to do better than that.
Or even 5. Five's not necessarily the number that we're seeing winning basketball teams shooting.
But that was just that was so much better than 2. I know it's only 3 more, but it was enough in that style game where you were 33%. You were one out of every 3 that you shot, you hit, which was the efficiency. You didn't waste possessions with a bunch of crazy shots. All right, we're up against another break here on the show. Again, we appreciate all of you so much that find us each and every day. A lot more to come here on the Auburn Blitz right after this. So
I don't know, Tubbs. I mean, the first part of the season, it did feel like he was a little bit more involved in calling the offensive sets, and not to the level that he was. And I don't want to dig into that, 'cause, Brett, maybe that's a question you can ask. You know, because I don't think it'll be one that they'll back away from, because my gosh, Bruce Pearl gave him more credit for how good his offenses were than anybody on that coaching staff. So I'm sure there's still a role, but maybe the way that they communicate it's a little bit different from what we saw earlier in the year. But I honestly haven't been watching for it, so to give a good response there, I don't know. Oh, I mean, Patrick, you're dead on. I mean, Sway, first off, defensively, what he gives you on the perimeter when he was substituting offensive and defensive substitution the other night because he doesn't shoot the ball well from the free throw line. So you do have to substitute offense for defense. But, you know, the way he gets out on the perimeter and doesn't give you good looks when everybody watching the game and coaching the game and playing the game knows you need to get up a good look from 3, he won't give it to you. And then Jovic just is getting better and better. Now, he had a 23-point game, and he's come back to earth a little bit offensively.
Well, he's had – since that game, his minutes have gone way down.
Yeah.
Which is it's another question. Maybe tomorrow we can look at trying to figure out what's going on there, because only 15 minutes in that game. Let me just go back and look and see. 15 minutes against Florida. Against Ole Miss, he had 14 minutes. And then South Carolina's the game he had such a great game. We needed him because we'd have lost. That's one of those games, Patrick, you're looking like, yeah, we could have won those other ones, but we also snuck out of there. We didn't shoot worth a darn against South Carolina, and we found a way to win that one. So they kind of play out. But he had 30 minutes against South Carolina. So to get cut down to 14, 15 minutes, I don't know if he's got something going on. You know, maybe an injury or something that we don't know about, that they're just kind of watching maybe from that, because he had 27 minutes against Missouri. Let's see about Arkansas. I'll just go back one more game. He had 12 against Arkansas, but then he had a 3-game stretch in Missouri, South Carolina there, and Ole Miss where he had a lot of minutes. So I don't know.
Well, and part of it's Keyshawn Murphy's playing so well.
Well, that again, now Murph was, and Steven said it. I mean, he was playing tentative because of that injury.
Yeah.
And now that he's gotten some confidence back, now we all know about that, man. That's a mental thing. Like when you hurt yourself, you're a little bit iffy, man. If you don't, you're scared to do it again, you know. you see running backs sometimes that never do recover mentally after they blow a knee out.
That's the reason Steven was so upset at the end of the game with that closing dunk where he falls and stays on the court a bit. I mean, Auburn cannot afford to lose
Can't
him.
lose anybody, man.
Definitely not him down in the post. I mean, you can't lose anybody when you're only really playing 7, but
yeah,
that guy in the post, but he's playing great basketball, playing the best basketball of his career.
He is.
Here's
man.
Ed's update on the NIL: Kentucky, Arkansas, Tennessee, A&M, Texas, Vandy, Bama, Mizzou, Auburn, and Georgia. NIL top 10 in basketball.
All right, let me see what I think we got like 12 or 15 seconds.
Is Florida not in there?
I would have thought they would.
Well,
welcome back, everyone, to the Auburn Blitz. Halfway through our show, brought to you by J. Smith Construction and Excavation. No job is too big or too small. Make sure you call on them for all your construction needs, and Sensa Green for air that is warm and clean right now. Call on Sensa Green. They are the carrier experts, proud supporters of Auburn Athletics and the Auburn Blitz podcast and show. Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine. It is 12:30 on the dot, and it is always Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine, our post-game show sponsor. Kathy, I had to jump on Saturday and give you a bonus show, okay? Because when you go 30 years, I remember 1996. I remember a lot about 1996, and I don't look the same. Randy and I don't look the same as we did in 1996. Randy was still in high school in 1996. I had graduated by then. So I was my first year in college. So it's hard to believe it had been all the way back to then since Auburn had knocked off Florida in Florida. But speaking of that, I had to jump on doing a post-game show. But Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine are such a great partner of ours here on our program, and we can't thank them enough. Love going on location there. Love doing all the things that we do, and it's all possible because of Kathy and her staff and Jeff and everybody. So we appreciate them so very much. Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine. Check them out in Montgomery and in Auburn. All right, Ed had some interesting stuff over here talking about Kentucky, Arkansas. We don't see Florida in there. Yeah, he said Florida and Auburn are tied at 9. So I was close. I said 8. And so Auburn and Florida sitting there tied at 9. Florida is your defending national champs, and they're down at midway part of the deal. And they went out and got Boogie Flan, which I thought was a big deal.
Kept Condon.
Yeah, kept Condon. They got some guys
I'm shocked. I'm shocked their numbers not higher. But
again, I think it boils down.
It's
crazy what these schools put up. I mean, how they want to allocate this money, man.
Well, but more important, though, if you look at that, Auburn and Florida played in the Final Four last year. Both losing players, but Auburn losing more. Florida did keep a couple of key pieces there on that roster that they didn't lose last year. But, man, we're getting more with less. And I'm not saying that we're underspending. Don't skew me in that direction. But I do think you need to look and say it's like watching Kentucky over the years and thinking they should be better. Well, why should they be better? Well, because they're the blue blood in this conference, and they outspend all of us. And they get the best players, and they have a limitless budget, it feels like, with what they're able to spend on the roster. So I agree with that. But when you look at Auburn and Florida, Brett, even after a championship season and a Final Four berth, not anybody in this conference playing any better than the two of us right now.
No.
I mean, A&M beat us, but you can have an argument back and forth on whether they really did or not. I mean, Auburn was their equal that night, and the OT loss to Georgia, and then that upsetting last-second made shot that didn't go in Auburn's direction has Auburn. Yeah, you have a couple of those things go their way, and we're right there at the top of the SEC too. So again, you can't say enough good things about what Auburn's done in basketball.
And again, strategically, this may be what they wanted to do, but next year, Auburn may go in the portal and get the top guy. You just never know from year to year.
Yeah.
The biggest name guy out there may be at Auburn next year. I think Auburn, I'm with you. I think they're not underspending. And I don't think they're not putting priority. Don't misunderstand that. Don't think they're not putting priority on the basketball program. Does everybody want unlimited funds? Of course they do. Does everybody want to go get the top 5 guys in the portal every year and bring them in? Hell yeah, they do. Kentucky just spent $20 million. Look at their results right now. Sometimes it don't work out. We've had a chemistry problem a little bit up until lately, which I think the team had to kind of work its way through. When you have turnover like this and you have a bunch of new guys coming in, you got to give everybody a minute, to kind of settle in. And, some of these guys have known each other for a few months, and that's it. And they're expected to go out and compete and do that. You see what Auburn was able to do with a veteran team last year. You saw what San Diego State was able to do a couple of years ago with a veteran team that's had a bunch of guys that have stuck around. If you can do that, obviously that is the blueprint. You want to do that. You want to keep older guys and you want to keep them through your program, but that's just not the world we live in. So every blue moon, when you're able to do that, you're probably going to have success. If not, you're going to have to be able to go out, do the best you can in the portal, get a bunch of guys in, and get the team chemistry together as fast as you can.
Well, and it's a good segue over to football and what we're doing in the portal there. And
Yes.
I think we're going old, especially on the lines of scrimmage. Auburn's got a number of offensive linemen that have got
19 offensive linemen on the roster now.
Yeah, and I would say 3 or 4 of those guys that you've got coming in only got 1 year left. So they're coming in expecting to play. And the coaching staff wouldn't make that offer if they didn't expect them to play,
right,
because there's no development time with those. And so I love the direction. I mean, Indiana, if you heard them, it was a lot like listening to everyone that wanted to throw darts at Auburn last year, basketball-wise, about how old we were. And we were older than a lot of the NBA rosters and stuff. I mean, well, look, if you want to throw darts at me on a Final Four run and SEC championship, can we figure out how to do that every year? And I'm sure Indiana's saying the same, but it looks like Golish and staff are doing the same with what they're spending their money on in the portal too, Brett. It's not development that we're spending our money on. It's guys that we expect to come in and have already taken a lot of snaps, and we know exactly what we're getting.
Yeah, and he had to do it 100% this year because with the coaching change and so many leaving, 34 leaving, you had to go and only one portal window now. Again, remember that. That's been a change. There's no other portal window, so you needed to make your money now. You needed to make hay now. There is, I know maybe some more guys that can trickle in, but you had to get to work in a very small window of time and get a lot of guys in here to fill a lot of depth pieces, and they did that. So tip of the hat to them on that. All right, we're up against another break here on the show. Stay tuned. More to come here on the Auburn Blitz right after this. Yeah, Vanderbilt's realized that, you know what, man, we can just go spend money too. And now we don't have to be the bottom dweller in everything. And, our baseball team was something, that we put focus on for a long time with Tim Corbin. And, but now we figured out, hey, we can go get a good football coach and we can win there. And we can go be good in basketball, both girls and boys. And we can be good in all these sports if we choose to, because of the landscape of the of college sports. And then, of course, you got Nashville, which is a happening, hip place to be, and they're taking advantage of that. They're taking advantage of the surge of popularity of the city of Nashville, and it's very intriguing to a lot of people to go there. It's a fun place to visit. Why wouldn't you want to live there? And there's a lot of athletes that go, man, get done with the game, I can go downtown. I mean, it's a lot of fun things to do in Nashville. So they've got an asset there that they're now tapping into. That's the way it goes.
Well, I agree. I mean, and now the question is, how much do they throw into facilities?
And we've already seen them do it in football.
They've started to, and it's what an atmosphere they created this year in comparison to years past. And you're right, there is a buzz. I don't think it's going to stop. I don't know why it would.
I don't either, man. I don't know why they
like pointing to certain areas in the state of Alabama that are thriving and thinking, why would they not do well? The only reason I could see them not doing well is not be led well.
It's kind of like Indiana. I mean, people say, well, look at a program that was until this year the worst in Division Power 4 football, had the worst record. Never really won anything. And they've won a national championship now. Do you think they want to go back to old days? They've set a bar, and they don't want to go back to what they were before. So why can't they maintain that? That's kind of what we say about Auburn basketball. We've been to 2 Final Fours now. We've sustained this for over 10 years. And everybody needs to quit saying, hey, well, I remember the days, and it's good to go back and remember the days to know where you came from. I'm not saying that, but, man, those days are over, man. Like, we ain't a bad program. We shouldn't settle for having a crappy year. Like, our expectations have changed. This ain't 1989 and 1990 anymore where you just hoping to have something to do to get the football season again. Like, no, I mean, you don't take steps back once you get there. You figure out ways to stay there. And that's why Vanderbilt, they ain't going nowhere, man. They're not. So
that's a good point, Dean. I guess the problem with the SEC, if you can call it a problem, is you are trying to compete or at least grow in each sport. It's not, I don't look at a Vandy and think, like Brett and I used to say all the time with Vandy, they're spending their time and their resources to build that baseball program up. And then once it's built up, maybe they'll go and concentrate on something else. And that worked out for them. But Mississippi State was the same. Like, we're going to be second to none on our facilities in baseball. When you think of Mississippi State, you think of winning baseball. Right now, Auburn, you think Auburn, it's not winning football. You think Auburn, as much as my point a little bit earlier. I want to spend as much money as we can to get it back, but I also don't want to neglect the program that is no question our top program right now in athletics, and that's basketball. And I'm not saying we're neglecting it, but I'm also don't think that we're spending top 3 or 4 in the SEC money at putting the best product that we could out there. Because if you did add a couple more pieces, I'm going to keep saying it. If you add a couple more pieces of this roster, it's a championship caliber roster, Brett. Right now, can it be a championship caliber roster? Maybe, but these 7 that are getting minutes are going to have to play out of their mind.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit deficient to be to that level. Doesn't mean you can't go on a run, but all right, we got 10 seconds. And Vanderbilt with $11 billion endowment and Auburn with 1.2. I mean, look, there you go. I mean, that's why things probably won't change. All right, welcome back, everyone. A couple segments left here on the Auburn Blitz here on this Monday. We hope all of you are having a great day. Program brought to you by J. Smith Construction and Excavation and Sensa Green for air that's warm and clean. Call them Sensa Green. They are the carrier experts. Again, appreciate all of you out there. Some great points over here. It is all about managing money. It is about how you divide it up. I said that to start the show. Everybody wants the best players. Okay. Everybody would like to go out and have, an unlimited way to go out and coerce the best ones to come to your school. That is not the case. Some are going to have more money than you, so you're going to have more money than others. So you got to figure out how to manage all that and figure out how that works. That's a huge part of the landscape of college athletics now, like it or not. That's what you got to do. You got to be good at it. You got to be good at managing your budget and getting the best out of that as possible. So with that being said, I want to go to another direction that we and again, we talked a little bit about it on the podcast this morning, but dadgum, man, the tampering that's going on in college athletics is at a fever pitch. And it's like Jason and I talked about, like, I don't even know what tampering is, because now LSU's accusing Auburn and another team of tampering with some of their guys. And it's like, man, well, what is tampering? I don't – if the definition of tampering is what Ole Miss did to Clemson, like, you got a kid that's enrolled in school, he's in a class, you keep texting him, you keep up in the ante till you get him to leave the class and come to you. That's tampering. But who's in place to do anything about it? That's the biggest problem.
Well, you got to give me some specifics on LSU and what they're saying Auburn did?
I don't know.
I haven't read
That was
this.
brought up this morning. We don't really know. We didn't even. I'm just saying. I think what it is people are just pointing fingers at everybody. They're
Well,
just going.
I think they're pointing fingers at everybody because they should be pointing fingers at everybody.
Yeah.
I think that Dabo just had enough
Well, you don't
finally
think
and said,
it's funny? It's comical that Lane Kiffin or anybody at LSU would point a finger to anybody because you don't think he's the poster child for tampering. I mean, it's everybody doing it to everybody.
well, that would be my answer to it is you may just have people finally have had enough. And Dabo made it, this politically correct society that we lived in 5 years ago is over. Now if you think something and it smells, then you've got the ability, or at least it feels like, to come out and say it. And maybe it took Dabo, Brett, to go.
I applaud him
Here
for what he
is,
did.
I do too, man. I mean, here is a day and a time rundown of exactly how all of this played out, and
not speculation. Here it is.
You make your own decision on whether you think this is right or wrong. And, as more and more coaches are willing to come out and call out the fraternity of coaches that there are out there, even if they happen to have liked them at one point in time, I mean, if it's the day and age where you've got to go and do that, then you're going to see people. And if they happen to be talking about, and the reason I ask about Auburn, if they happen to be talking about your program, then you're going to get real defensive. You and I kind of end up in these same talks on the public and private side on the high school ranks. When they're talking about your program, you get real defensive. But if you were over on dealing with what they're dealing with, and a lot of this was, 7 or 8 years ago when a lot of us would throw shade at private schools that would go out there, and we would know year in and year out they'd pull some of these public guys over, and it would make a massive difference, not just football, but in a lot of the other programs. So my point, though, is it depends on where you sit. And the reason I love what Dabo did is I don't care where you sit. No one that heard that rundown and that timeline of how that played out that's not involved in either of those two schools thinks that that's good for the sport. It's not good for the sport. Everybody would agree with that. Do you agree? I don't even – if he'd have had the same rundown about Auburn, me and you may have argued. You may have defended Auburn and the need to go out there and do it. I don't know that any of
that's defensible.
I would have been. I think it's going on everywhere, honestly.
Oh, it's not. It ain't just Ole Miss.
I agree.
It is everybody's got their hand in the cookie jar. I don't know that Dabo does. I mean, he has been so anti-portal. Now, they've had to go out and get some guys, or you just going to die. I mean, I hate to be that way.
Look at his last 3 or 4 years.
That's what I'm saying. So
not good results. I mean, he even had to change his perspective on that.
Right.
It says, how's there tampering when there are no rules to NIL and the transfer portal? At least none that are enforced. It's becoming a joke. I mean, there you go.
It ain't becoming a joke. It is a joke.
It's been a joke. And then now you're allowing players. Is it individual players that can put 2 logos on their uniform? Or does the whole team have the option to put 2 logos on their uniform?
I hadn't even – man, I'm so exhausted from it. I saw the thing when it came out, I think on Thursday or Friday, and I'm like, I don't even want to read it. I'm like, I'm just being completely honest with everybody. I just don't care anymore, man. Like, we all knew this was coming, and every little amp, let's just put them all over. Let's look like a NASCAR car or a Major League Fishing jersey, where there's so many logos on there you can't even see the numbers. I mean, that's just where we are with it. I just thought it was also comical, not laughing at the situation, but when Dabo was reading all that and they got into this and they were like, well, what about this? And Pete Golden, and the guy's response was, well, that's just what Pete Golden does. And he sat there and he kind of looked. I'm like, man, it has just gotten to the point where who cares, right? They were called out by people at Clemson. They kept pursuing. They're like, okay, I hear you, but can you just get out of the way? I'm trying to talk to your players.
Well, let's go over what's going on in the last 12 months.
Let's do it in the next segment because we got to get to this last break. We come back. We got one final segment coming up here on the Auburn Blitz.
Keep that thought with the complaints that we had earlier with Auburn trying to abide by the rules when everyone suspected that the rules were going to change.
Man.
So,
God, you couldn't have been
what
off more.
option do you have but to, if your goal is to win and you lose your job if you don't, and you know that, and you could say, well, I'm going to try to do the right thing, but the 50% of the teams that you're losing to, you know, all of them aren't doing the right thing, then yeah, you can do the right thing, but you're going to lose your job.
I mean, it was comical to think, and again, you can say whatever you want.
Be right back.
That John Cohen thought that everybody else was going to get disciplined and Auburn was going to be the poster child for how to do it. We all knew that. And I applaud the effort of being, you know, from an ethical standpoint or whatever. I applaud that effort. I do. But there was no way that was going to hold water. And we all knew it. We all knew it when he was saying it to us at the ambush events this past summer. We were talking about all you did was get behind in recruiting because everybody else was just moving right along. It's kind of like being on the interstate and you pull off on the shoulder, and are you expecting everybody else to pull off on the shoulder because you did? No, the cars just keep on going up the road because there's no obstacle or anything in the way of them preventing them from doing that. So if you just choose to pull off on the side of the road, you're going to get passed. I mean, we all, again, it just was, we knew in those events that we were in bad shape. This is not the course of action we need to be taking. I appreciate everybody wanting to be morally and ethically above board. But in a sport where there is no morals and ethics anymore, and you're trying to be moral and ethical, you're going to get blown out. That's just the truth.
Well, it's the reason that what went down this past Friday here in the state happened. Is that exact conversation you and I just had. No other reason for it. And again, it depends on which side you sit on.
One organization has been real. Here's my summation of that. One organization has been superior and very strong. The other one has been weak as water. And the weak as water people have left the weak as water. And they came over for a reason. They didn't come over just because they wanted to. They came over for a reason. And so now things have changed and they want to do some different things. So and they still want to be over at that one place. And so the other organization needs to look at themselves and say, why did we lose everybody or almost all? There's still some teams over there, and I'm not taking shots at them, but why did a majority of the programs we had leave? You gotta look at that first and foremost. That kind of if this so-called, I ain't saying his name, so-called politicians got all the answers, why don't he go talk to them? And I think he's going to Friday. Why don't he talk to them and find out why that dissolved and went downhill so bad?
Well, I think Jeff. I think Jeff Hines knows better than me and you and anybody else. The reason some of these decisions were made was travel and expenses, Brett. And it's not just football because that's Friday night sport, Thursday sometimes, but pretty much Friday night sport. It's like my wife and I talking about it from the perspective of, say, a Tuesday and Thursday night game. If you're going to get on the road and go 3 or 4 hours away, and then you're expected to be back at school next morning. I mean, you can't make that work, man.
No. Here we go. Welcome back, everyone, to the Auburn Blitz final segment of the show here on this Monday. We appreciate it so much. Brought to you by J. Smith Construction and Excavation. Call on them for all your industrial and residential work. They can help you out there. And then Sensor Green for air that is warm and clean for all of you right now. The carrier experts here in the state of Alabama. Tubbs said,
great point here, by the way, Brett.
I think it came out better as far as waiting on. Yes, now that you knew what was going to transpire. Yes. Now, if Hugh Freeze had somehow won 8 or 9 ball games this year, which he should have, we wouldn't be talking about this. And we'd be sitting there going, well, now we're behind. But now, again, we were behind in the high school side. Now, all of a sudden, that doesn't mean as much anymore because of the portal and how you want to go and attack that. Yes, you're still going to recruit high school guys, but maybe not as many moving forward. So even since last summer, look how much has changed. Look at all the variables I just went through at a Tubbs point. If things would have done this or if things would have stayed the way it would have versus look at all the changes that makes this now really not as damaging as it could have been.
Which is the reason that I've been so blunt about my unwillingness to go and recruit a 5-star plus quarterback from the high school ranks.
But the caveat to your argument is what you also added the other day. You didn't know what 9 months, 10 months was going to look like down the road in the current setting. And what you're talking about right now in 9 or 10 months could be totally different.
Be changed.
Make sure you preface that.
Now, how could that change? Is for them to put something in place like you've asked for, which is sign some type of contract and you're obligated to stay at the school for 2 years.
Bingo.
Now, then you're an open free agent just like you are in the pros after that second year. And if you're worth $20 million a year, so be it. Whatever the number ends up being, then so be it. But right now, with the current setup that I sent you over a tweet that I saw, and I don't know if you can pull that up, Brett, but it was going on the 5-star plus quarterbacks and how many of them are still at the college that they signed with. And I think it was one out of 11.
1 of 11.
It was one, and it was probably Keelan Russell.
Yeah,
it's at Alabama. I don't know that, but that's the only one that I can remember that was a 5-star plus guy that was one of the top ones in the country
and stayed
that's still there. I mean, that they're all moving on. So why would you spend? It was another funny tweet yesterday. It was about how much money Auburn spent for that Mercer game, and it may seem crazy to you, but Auburn may have spent more money on Deuce Knight to play in that one football game than they did to bring Mercer open.
To come up there.
And it's an interesting point. I think the person that posted that out there was probably being a little humorous by the way that they put it out there, but I bet they may be close to
it's probably not far off. It may be accurate.
Which is wild. And not only that, the money that you did spend there was developing for somebody else you're going to have to play year in and year out. Makes it even worse. There
was a point this morning that I brought up with you, and I brought up with Jason, and Jason had not heard this either, but he said, man, I think you're right. It's going to take the NFL having one of these guys, go to the portal, go to the draft, not like what he likes. Come back to college, and NFL goes, that franchise just lost a pick, man. And that's very damaging to this franchise because there's only so many rounds. And we poured a lot into that pick, and now I don't have a pick. What are you going to do for me? So the above are going to have to help the college, just like the NBA had to help college on these high school guys. And they're like, we're not taking any more of those. We're not taking any more Kevin Garnett's. Not taking any more Kobe's, although they worked out. But everybody's trying to jump from high school to pro, and they're like, no, college is like it. And then it was the one and done thing. And I know things have changed, but at least the NBA put their foot down on that. The NFL, they're gonna sue these guys, man. If they harm these franchises, it's coming. And we know it's coming because look at what the NBA, look at Charles Bediako in the situation this weekend. And then another point, Randy, that Jason brought up is he said the next thing you're going to see next year is a guy's season's over and there's playoff teams, and that kid's going to try to transfer that team for the playoffs, and they're going to grant him permission through a court injunction to let that guy go play. He said, it's coming. He said, remember I said it today, write it down. It's the next thing that you go, well, there's no way they'll pull that off. He said, just watch. Somebody's going to try it.
Well, and somebody's going to be willing to do it. And Nate Oates is proof positive of that right now. I mean, he's pulling a lot of minutes from somebody that's been on his roster and practicing with that team all year. I mean, let that sink in.
Yes.
No different than the transfer portal, no different than people bouncing all over the place down in the high school ranks. It's no different everywhere. It's the wild, wild west everywhere you turn right now. And I would be, I mean.
Isn't it crazy that I've had multiple coaches come up now, will not name any of them, but multiple across the state tell me I have to re-recruit my own kids every year.
Yeah,
in high school.
Yes, you do.
You want to talk about the word recruiting? Like, if you've got good players on your team, like, and it happens I have had it told, you can ask Faith. You can ask her the conversations we've had with coaches in multiple sports. Coaches have said, man, love my kids. I got to make sure he stays here next year. Or I got to make sure she stays here next year.
And hey, it's not only in this state.
No,
You know,
it
think
is not
about,
on.
like, look at Thompson High School over the last couple of years.
Let me get out for high school. Let me get out for TV.
Yeah.
And let's finish our points here. That's going to wrap us up for TV here on the Auburn Blitz. We'll be back with you tomorrow for the same time, same place. Again, we appreciate it so much. For Randy, I'm Brett saying we've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.
And look, it's real. Seaborn had to turn down 7 figures to go play high school quarterback in the state of Georgia, didn't he?
Yep, sure did. That's a known fact.
Well, and then the Buckhorn kid, which is,
Caleb.
Caleb Holt, and he takes it. It'd be really hard to turn it down.
Yep.
Be really
he played
hard
for Buckhorn for 2 years and won a state championship there. And did they win 2?
They won both of them.
One back to back. Beat Mountain Brook in one of them. I can't remember who they beat in the other one.
I can't remember the first one. The second one was Mountain Brook.
Yep. But then takes the offer to go play at Buford. Wasn't it Buford or Grayson? It's one of the two. I mean, who knows?
What does it matter? I mean, but it's still, so it's not only you're competing with in-state programs, whether it be private, public, all of them. I'm not saying all, but a majority of the ones that are winning. I think I saw a number that 81% of the state champions in the last 5 years have been at the school that had the most transfers come into their program from the previous year, which is a wild number. But that's in this state. That's transfers in this state. I mean, our best players are getting coerced to go out of state and take money. As we don't offer NIL. Look, I'm all about not offering NIL. I don't want to go down that route. I'll throw that out there first. If a kid decides he wants to go for 7 figures to play high school football at Buford, just no one call me locally or anywhere else that I'm associated with and see if I'll throw in some money to keep that said player to play for my high school. Just lose my damn number before you do that, because I can't get my head around that.
Anybody
does that, I don't.
That don't make it. I mean, you doing all that for a blue mount, and you don't even get the blue mount. It goes to the school. I mean,
could you imagine going to Kim and saying, Kim, I'm gonna need to take this money I've got, this nest egg I've got over here, because I'm worried about this quarterback coming in to play for my high school that I'm broadcasting for. I mean,
one of the dumbest things that you can actually even ask. I mean, just it makes no sense. So
I don't get it.
I don't know how that works for some people. If that's what you want to do, that's all. I'm all for it. Whatever. We won't be doing it, but it's just I was on, and Gary wouldn't mind me saying this. When he calls me every week, he's just so frustrated, man. He's like, dude, this is like. He said, I don't even know, man. He said, I don't even know where to start.
Because he's not happy about Betty Yaku playing.
No, man, it's just nobody is, man. Like, and it's not even about him. It's not about and it's really not even about Alabama. It could have been somebody else. It could have been Auburn that tried this. It could have been whatever. It's just the principle of the fact that somebody is going to do it. And Jason said this morning. He said, look, man, I hope Betty Yaku scores 40. I hope he leads them on down the line, because he said it needs to blow completely up. He said this thing needs to get absurd. It needs to, the guy come in. Just go get Jabari Smith to take a waiver from Houston for a couple months and see if he can come back and see what everybody'd say about that. Because Jabari Smith's got eligibility. Okay. And what if he could talk Houston and say, hey, let's go watch this. I'll pay you. I for what you were going to pay me, I'll pay you back through what Auburn's going to pay me to come back and play. But I want to go prove a point. I'm about to go 40 every night down in college. You go watch this. And you think anybody else out there would like that? No, they wouldn't. So, but could you actually have an extreme example of this coming up? in the future? You sure could. You sure could.
Well,
Betty
this one's
Ogden is
not
no world beater, but in
no.
on a team that had some guys out last Saturday, he came in, scored 12 or 14. He is a piece that Alabama was missing that is absolutely going to help them when they're at full strength coming down the stretch. Period. End of discussion. They didn't beat Tennessee, and everybody's laughing, and they're like, oh, it's karma and all that. It ain't about that Tennessee game. You know, Aiden was out, and they had another guy out. When they get to full strength and they have him now as an inside presence, they're a different team, man. I'm just telling you.
Well, this while, stay tuned in out there.
Yep.
Podcast in the morning. Very, very good one this morning, Brad. Didn't have a chance, but noticed that there were a lot of people that were watching and a lot of communication
It's
going
every
back
day
and
now,
forth.
man.
And,
it doesn't matter.
Closing in on about 15,000 on subscribers out there. So pass it along. Communicate with us and stay tuned in. We'll be back on TV tomorrow. We will be on at the TV station tomorrow. Yep. So if you had a phone call that you wanted to get in, get that in tomorrow.
Yep. All right, everybody have a great day. We'll see you next time.